All right, these are going to be problems similar to the DBA 2.10 and the module test 2.11. We're factoring each one completely here. Now, the first thing I notice is these are all even 14, 60, and 54. Excuse me. That means they're divisible by 2, if nothing else. So I'm going to start by factoring out that greatest common factor of 2. So it'll be 7m squared plus 30m plus 27. Now, when I look at this right here, what I notice is that those are kind of ugly numbers, to be honest, if I'm going to be factoring. But 7 times 27 is 7 times 27 is 189. And so if I'm going to try to break apart my middle term here, I need to break it apart in such a way that whatever I multiply, so there's going to have to be something factored here and there. So 30 and or 29 and 1, that's not going to work. 28 and 2, 27 and 3. So I'm just thinking of things that add up to 30, but they need to multiply together to give me 189. So 27 and 3, no. 26 and 4, that's not going to do it. 25 and 5, no. 24 and 6, going to be an even. 23, oh, hey, 23 and 7. 23 times 7, 23 times 7 is 189, right? Let me just double check there. Pretty sure though, 23 times 7. Let me try that again. 23 times 7 is 161. Nope, that doesn't work. 22 and 8, no. 21. 21 and 9. 21 and 9, there it is. So I'm not going to lie, that was not easy to come up with. 7m squared plus 21m plus 9m plus 27. That is kind of ugly. It is not nice. But I can factor out a 7m from these two terms now. And so that'll be m plus 3. And from these two terms, I can factor out a 9. And that will give me m plus 3. Oh, and there's what I was looking for. That m plus 3 is right there. So I have 2 times the quantity, 7m plus 9. Because now what I'm doing is I'm factoring out the m plus 3 from each of those, times the quantity m plus 3. And there we go. That isn't really very nice. 9m squared minus 16. Oh, this is a difference of squares. 9 is 3 squared. 16 is 4 squared. So this is a difference of squares. So whenever it's a difference of squares, I always know that it's going to be a binomial. And then it's going to be whatever the square root of that is. So plus and minus. And that's it. All right, factoring here. What I want to notice is that I don't think this is going to factor. So no, because it can't add up to 1, because it's got to add up to 1 and multiply to 6. There's no way that's going to happen. So this one does not factor. Another way of seeing that is by using the discriminant. So the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Well, b is 1, a is 1, and c is 6. So b squared minus 4 times a times c is going to be 1 minus 24 equals negative 23. When the discriminant is negative, there are no real roots, and so in this case it wouldn't factor. All right, oh, this is kind of a different one. So what I notice here is that we have a 5x and a 25x, so we can factor out a 5x there, and it'll be 5y minus 1. And then since this is minus 1 in here, I can see that it's going to have to be an 8 that we're factoring out. So I'm going to add 8 so that we have 5y minus 1 again. So again, we can see that 5y minus 1 right there. We're factoring it out, so we get 5x plus 8. That quantity times the quantity 5y minus 1. Use the information provided to write the vertex form equation of each parabola. So what I see is that here that's our vertex. So that is our h and k. And in this case, h is 1 and k is 2. And so the other thing I notice is that when we go to the left and the right 1 unit, we go down 1 unit. So that means that our a value, because we're going down, our a value has to be negative. And because we're going down 1, our a value has to be negative 1. So my function here is going to be negative quantity x minus 1, that's my h value, squared plus k, so plus 2. And that is that one. All right. What's the average rate of change from x equals 1 to x equals 3? So here I'm going to do x equals 1 in green, and I'm going to do x equals 3 in orange. And so x equals 1 is right there. And so that is 1, negative 4. And x equals 3 is right there. And so that's 3, 0. Now, when we're doing average rate of change, all we're doing is saying as we move to the right 1 unit, what are we doing vertically? And so we can see that when we move to the right 1 unit, well, when we move to the right 2 units, we go up 4. That means when we move to the right 1 unit, we go up 2. To the right 1 unit, we go up 2. So I can see that way that my average rate of change is 2. The other thing I can do is I can just use the slope formula, which is slope is equal to y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. And so in this case, y1 is negative 4 minus y2 is 0 over x1 is 1 minus x2 is 3. Oh, yep. I thought I made a mistake there for a minute. Negative 4 minus 0 is negative 4. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. So that is the average rate of change. Solve each equation by factoring. So here, we need to get all of our terms on one side. So I'm going to subtract 5x and add 4. Subtract 5x and add 4. And so that's going to be x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. Now, if I'm going to split apart my middle term there, I know that it's going to be, so I'm going to have x, and so it's going to have to add together to give me negative 5, but multiply together to give me positive 4. The only way for that to happen is if they're both negative. So it's going to have to be a negative 4 and negative 1. So let's see, negative 1x plus, and then it's the negative, whoops, it's going to be minus 4x plus 4 equals 0. All right, now factoring this right here, we have x times the quantity x minus 1 minus 4 times the quantity x minus 1 equals 0. Next step here is going to be, I'm going to take that x minus 4, and that's in there. And then we also have the x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, so now we have to take each of those binomials, x minus 4 equals 0 and x minus 1 equals 0. Adding 4 to both sides, we get x equals 4. Adding 1 to both sides, we get x equals 1. Now for that problem, what you need to see there is that we really should check it just to make sure, but I'm going to leave that up to you to check and make sure that those both work. I know they do. Here we're going to solve the equation with the quadratic formula, but we need to get all of our terms on one side. So we have 3b squared minus b plus 4 equals 0. So now be careful, this b is a variable, but the coefficient of our b there is -1, and we call that our b value. So a is equal to 3, b equals -1, c equals 4. And it's a b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So x equals b squared, -1 squared, b squared minus the square root, b squared minus the square root. I just messed it up. I need to sing it. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Oh, goodness, that's pretty bad. X equals -b, so -1, plus or minus the square root of b squared, -1 squared, minus 4, times a, times c, all over 2a. All right, here we go. Now we have a -1, that's a +1, 1 plus or minus the square root. And let's see. This is 1 minus 12 minus 48. So 1 minus 48 is -47. All over 6. And so that's going to be x is equal to 1 plus or minus I times the square root of 47 all over 6. I think that's right. Hope so. And this one, solve the equation by completing the square. All right, well, I first noticed that I can factor out the 8. So we have 8 equals r squared. Actually, I think the first thing I'm going to do is to get this 16 over on the other side by subtracting 16. And I'm going to do that because it's going to make my completing the square a little cleaner, and then I'll bring it back over. So now I can factor out the 8 there. So I have 8 times the quantity r squared minus 2r. And then I leave a little spot here, equals -16. So this spot right there is where I'm going to complete the square. And so remember, what I do is I take this term and I take that coefficient and divide it by 2 and then square the result. And that's going to be -1 squared, which equals 1. So a 1 goes here. So I'm adding 1. But I need to be careful. I can't just add 1 here because actually this, when I added this, it's 8 times 1. So I'm actually adding 8 on the left-hand side. So I need to add 8 on the right-hand side to keep it balanced. Now, my next step is going to be to then factor this. So I have 8 times the quantity r minus 1 times the quantity r minus 1 equals -8. And now I'm going to go up here. So I have 8. I'm gonna actually 8 times quantity r minus 1 squared equals -8. I'm going to divide by 8 here, so I get r minus 1 squared equals -1. And I am just going around in circles here right now. What did I do that I don't like? So I know what was happening for me is I need to square root now, because what's happening here is we're going to have a complex solution, and that's really all that's happening. So we square, whoops, I'm going to do a screen there. We're going to square root both sides, so we get r minus 1 equals I. And now just our last step here is to add 1 to both sides, add 1 to both sides, and we get r equals 1 plus I. Oh, also, whenever we do a square root like that, we always get a positive and negative. So in our solution, it's going to be positive and negative. And solutions always come in those complex conjugate pairs. So that is that one. And that, my friends, is the end of this video. It's a long one. I hope you find it useful, though, and stuck with me. Thanks so much.